Welcome to some new r/petty revenge stories, where people share stories of small victories over those that wronged them. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called A Portion of Her Own Medicine. A few years ago, my friend was pretty desperately looking for a job whilst in university. She was in a shopping center and went to Victoria's Secret and saw that they were hiring on a poster outside the store. She went in and tried to speak to the sales assistant, who ignored her until she got white in her face. My friend asked how she could apply to work there, and the sales assistant looked her up and down. She said, "Look, hun, I don't think you're pretty enough for this job, but if you want, you can apply online." My friend was upset and left the store. After about 5 minutes, she marched back in and started asking the sales assistant to pull their most expensive pieces for her. She kept asking for different sizes, colors, if the sales assistant could check the bag for her, etc, etc. After about an hour of wasting the sales assistant's time, it's time for her to pay. She goes to the counter, pulls out her wallet, but then asks the sales assistant if she can look at the pieces again. After inspecting them for another 5 minutes, she puts her wallet away and says, I don't think these are pretty enough for me. And with that, she walked straight out of the store. The next story is called Failure. I have a close family friend who I grew up alongside. We had an intense rivalry when we were kids, and he loved to make fun of me. One of his favorite insults was to call me stupid and make me feel super incompetent. I remember a particular gathering when I was in year 7 when I jokingly confessed that I messed up a math test. He then spent the rest of the evening telling everyone at this gathering that he was a straight A student and that I was a failure. Verbatim. He made digs about me being an idiot routinely for years, and at one point it generally affected my self-esteem. Anyway, our families grew apart. I got older and stopped seeing him for several years. Last week though, I went to his sister's wedding and our families were talking. His mother mentioned that he applied for clerkship at the top tier law firms in our city. We are both law students, by the way, and he was rejected by them all. Everyone else then tried to console him. He was visibly irritated by this and commented things like, "Oh, it's really competitive, hardly anyone gets in these days." I didn't say anything, but then his mother asked me if I was working, and I said yes. And then she asked where. At first, I contemplated saying something like, "Oh, just a place in the city." But then I decided it was too good an opportunity to pass up. So instead, I chose to look him straight in the face and name one of the firms he was rejected from. Everyone went silent for a minute, and I can't explain how satisfying it was to see the astonished look on his face. Just to clarify though, I don't think grades or a fancy job are a measure of intelligence or a person's worth at all. But he definitely does, and it was just a really petty win for me, cause the guy was a total jerk. The third story is called Not on the Sales Floor. In college and for a few years after, I worked summer/winters at my local auto parts store. The general manager has been one of my best friends for a long time and is a very fair boss. This is a national auto parts chain, so the next level of management above the GM is district manager, who might show up at the store a few times a year. This happened in my first few months on the job. It was a slow day for customers because of the weather, so every employee was restocking shelves in the front and back of the store. The DM shows up with a bunch of Dunkin' boxes of coffee, cups, donuts, as well as a helium tank and some balloons. He tells us it's a random customer appreciation day and we put up some balloons around the store. Because it was so slow, almost none of the coffee had been drunk. For some context, this was the first time I had ever seen or met our DM. He seemed kind of cocky. After a while, our GM tells us we can all help ourselves to some coffee. I pour a cup and set it on the cup holder on my stock cart. It needed time to cool, so I wasn't drinking it, just had it on my cart and went back to stocking shelves. About 2 minutes later, the DM walks over and says, "Excuse me, we don't eat or drink on the sales floor," and pointed to my coffee. Keep in mind, there was not a single customer in the store. I opened my mouth to say that I wasn't even drinking it, but my GM was behind him and gave me the "please just put it away so I don't have to deal with him" look. So I went and set it on a back shelf. Went back to stocking shelves. About 15 minutes later, there's a handful of customers at the store and the DM is loudly distracting the GM as he is trying to ring out a customer. The DM is also guzzling a Dunkin' iced coffee. I smiled, walked right over to him in front of everyone and said, "Excuse me, we don't eat or drink on the sales floor." He looked at me, stunned and in total disbelief. Then the GM looked at him and said, "He's right, you can go and set it on the shelf where he set his coffee earlier." Not only did he look like a fool, but his was iced coffee, so it was ruined, watered down, by the time he got to drink it. I just popped my cup in the microwave and went about my day. The next story is called Warned You. During my last few high school years and early university years, I worked part-time in a supermarket at the checkout department. Of course, you would see your fair share of Karens and Richards and Kevins and entitled parents, entitled kids, etc. But no one in that store was more infuriating to deal with than the most recently hired supervisor. She was the kind of supervisor that would deny PTO if you did not give 4 weeks notice, despite all of our contracts stating we only needed to give 2 weeks notice. But then, when you tried to give 4 weeks notice, she would say, "It was too long ago, I do not remember you asking me." At the time of this story, I had worked at the store for quite a few years. Every Christmas season, I would say the same things to the supervisors. "I don't have any plans, I'm not leaving town, so if you need me for extra shifts, just put me down whenever you need me, just as long as I finish by 9:30 PM. They knew I would not care if it was any day of the week, just a 4-hour shift or 11-hour shift. I was completely free with no plans, totally flexible and able to work mostly whenever. My only condition was that I had to be done by 9:30 PM. This was because I had not yet gotten my full driver's license and it was illegal for me to drive by myself without some kind of supervisor between the hours of 10 PM and 5 AM. The store was open from 8 AM to 10 PM, so out of those 14 hours I could not work 0.5 of them. It was a good system and led to me doing a lot of extra shifts, with a lot of them being last minute. Early November, the new supervisor asked me about my December and January availability, and I said the same old song. "You can put me down for extra shifts as much as you like, whenever, for any day, as long as I'm done by 9:30 PM. She asked, "Why 9:30 PM? And then I explained to her about my driver's license. She just nodded and walked away. Mid-November rolls around and the December schedule was released. I was given plenty of extra shifts, as per usual, but you might have seen this coming. I was scheduled for 6 days a week, which would have been all goods with me, except for the fact that 5 of them ended at 10 PM. I found the supervisor as soon as I saw the schedule and reiterated that I cannot work past 9:30 PM. But you can still work until 10 PM. I can't, or else I'll be driving illegally and I'm not going to do that. Yes, but there are plenty of other ways you can get yourself home. Like what? Have your family pick you up? No, they are in and out of town on business. You can take the bus. No, it arrives every hour, 10 to the hour. I'm not working until 10, then waiting outside in the dark alone until 10:50 PM. What about Uber? I'm not working all day just to spend it all on Uber to get home. Well, then you will need to find someone to fill in those shifts for you. Nope, according to my contract, I don't. Then she just walks away. I'm left there speechless. Later that same shift, she was the only supervisor around. She completely left me out to dry with a horrid customer who could not use the self-service checkouts to save his life and took it all out on me. We've all seen horrible people like that. But this guy in particular was so bad, coworkers, even those from different departments, kept coming up to me asking if I was okay after dealing with that guy. Not my supervisor though. After I got home that day, I was done. I sent out CV after CV on job websites. My mentality was, if I'm gonna get paid minimum wage, I might as well do it somewhere better. Within a few days, I had a retail store asking me to come in for an interview. Within the next week, I had the new job lined up and ready to go, so I went back to the supermarket on my next shift and handed my 2 weeks notice. All my other supervisors were gutted that I was leaving. I'm not saying I'm some star employee, but I was always keen on extra shifts and barely took sick leave off. And I was willing to do a lot of the side tasks that no one else wanted to do, like collect shopping carts in the rain or empty the rubbish bins. And I just know a lot of stuff about the checkouts in general. And I was gutted that I wouldn't be working with them anymore, but working with that one bad supervisor hurt more than working without others. The day I handed in my notice, the bad supervisor wasn't working. I didn't see her until a few days later when she stopped me near the back of the store around a few other co-workers. I'm guessing that she wasn't too happy, she just lost a de facto full-timer just before the Christmas rush. She seemed a bit flustered, but still had that fake smile of hers on. "So, I heard you are leaving soon." "Yep, in just under 2 weeks. But you've worked here for quite some time. Any particular reasons why you are leaving so quickly?" And I said, with the biggest grin I have ever had on my face, "I already told you why. I'm not working those 10 PM shifts." It was beautiful. Within a split second of me saying that, her smile dropped and she just stared at me, speechless. This time it was my turn to just walk away. The 5th story is called The Long Game. My mom, 75, lives in a retirement community subdevelopment. My sister and I know not to cross her. Her neighbors not so much. Her house is next to the drive that goes down to the pool/clubhouse area. The lady that lives across the street was a known busybody and used to sit in her picture window watching whoever went to the pool. And then she would be going down to interrogate if she didn't recognize them. She would also snoop about neighbors' business and visitors. She also used to gossip about whatever she saw going on at the clubhouse and pool. My mother has a beautiful yard and is known as a gifted gardener. One spring, after growing tired of the constant meddling, she gifted the neighbor a Japanese maple. The neighbor wasn't sure where to plant, so my mother planted it on her own lawn, right in the nosy neighbor's line of sight of the pool/clubhouse. Now, 5 years later, she can't see any goings down at the pool. The last story is called Revenge on Jerks. I work at a few comic and anime conventions and my job is basically to chaperone celebrity guests. While most of the guests I work with are lovely and very professional, I occasionally get a male guest who's an entitled, handsy jerk who thinks I'm an object he can play with all weekend. This never happens with women guests. When I get a guest like that, albeit incredibly rare, I have an incredibly simple yet powerful revenge. When they inevitably get thirsty doing penance and signing and ask me for something to drink, I'll bring them a juice box. That's it, a juice box. If they ask for something else, I'll insist that's all we have right now. You'd be surprised at how much you can humiliate an adult man by making him drink a juice box. Watching grown men sit in front of an audience of adoring fans drinking their silly little juice from their silly little box when just moments ago they were acting like a big deal is a deeply satisfying experience. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories in today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.